So there is a point I can get to in this video about how writing as an outlet versus communication as an outlet can actually be a thing. So that should at least be the topic of this video. I know I've said that a lot of times before that I don't even like topics or focusing or something like that, or that I don't like having to make content that happens to have quality in it, even though I have a really big gambit with that alone, as rinse and repeat before. But here we go. So the title of this video is going to be writing as an outlet versus communication as one. The way of the rugged intellectual creative video essay. So that should be something like the title, but yeah. What I mean by that is writing as an outlet is what it sounds like. It's when you use your linguistic patterns and your formalities in written prose. You use that stuff to communicate or share what you're doing with your life. Again, that layer. What you're doing with your life, and like you use it in a way where, and simply put, saying this out of the blue won't really count too much in the worst possible way. Creative writing, okay? You have it like that where you can just like you can creatively write, and then you don't have to worry about what people think of your writing, even if it's not the most like enlightening thing you could write, if it even was appropriate. But creative writing opens the door for that. So you have a creative version of your writing that actually makes sense to the world and to yourself, and then it happens to be something that embellishes what happens to be in our realm. That's creative writing that is also writing as an outlet. Communication as an outlet. There's a dilemma I'm going to describe here, and there's a reason I make communication sound like it's different from writing, when it technically always isn't. Technically it isn't always, but this is what I'm going to say. Hear me out. Communication as an outlet. What I mean by this is it's when you use your communication as its own self-evident form of expression. You don't use it to explain ideas, you use it to explain itself. And that's not only impossible to do, it wastes a lot of people's time. And this is something that I did for a very long time. I was very anti-definitive. I was very anti-results, anti-action. Not so much anti-action orientation, although that can be a little bit part of it. But I was the kind of person who didn't depend on communication and even the laws of our world for what they were actually supposed to be, and they ended up being things that they didn't have to be. If you know what I'm talking about, it's like what I did with this was I made it so that every time I communicated with somebody, quote unquote, it was in a way where it wouldn't make sense to people like them, and not even necessarily to myself either. Although it does hurt my ego when people say that not even I should be able to understand what I'm saying. But just sometimes that's true. But that depends on circumstances, I guess, maybe. But that's some of the worst things I heard about my communication skills, or approaches at least. But my point is, you don't use communication as an outlet because you're supposed to use it to communicate your ideas and your messages and your intentions. You're supposed to do stuff like that. You're not supposed to make it where you don't know what you're doing with even the creative parts of it. There's something that, as toxic as it sounds like to me sometimes, I do understand when people say that creativity is supposed to build, not crumble, and that can hurt my ego too. But it is true to an extent, honestly. You're not supposed to like shatter things away with creativity. It's supposed to be renew anew, build anew, kind of thing going on there. So that's what I mean by writing as an outlet versus creativity as another kind. It's supposed to be this dichotomy that I'm just illustrating with my own ideas and creative writing in my own words right now. It's when I'm describing that, I guess you already know what I mean, is that writing in itself being the mode of communication where you anticipate being understood, and communication being its own philosophy for no apparent reason, then yeah, there you go. So what would be a good solution to having a communicative outlet, which is, again, unorthodox and impossible to function? Technically, the obvious answer would be to convert it back into a writing outlet, but here's another solution I got in mind. Just use creativity by itself. Don't rely on writing, just use creativity. Don't use creative writing, just be creative. So this is actually something I banter on quite a bit sometimes. For those of you who have heard me say this before, The very first time I ever even implored the idea of being creative was long ago. My father actually instilled the idea, hey, Tony, you should be a cartoonist. And I believed him. And for the time being, it was probably the best idea he ever had. If ever, for the entire time he has been my mentor, and however ways fatherhood has worked out for us. But he gave me the idea of being a cartoonist because not so much that to dismay me being a writer or an author, but to actually give me a chance to use my skills to the best of their abilities and to solve other problems in my life, maybe, and the potential of that. But mostly just to give me something to make me happy with what I have, and rather instead of wishing to be something that I'm not, which is kind of like the scientist kind of thing with the artist thing. But it was mostly obviously in connection and in lieu with seeing how creative I was on paper and seeing evidence of me being a creative person overall. So which is what I'm to think I should be a cartoonist. But the cartooning, if you think about it, is probably one of the best things I could do in my time right now. If I haven't done it already, if I have not been doing it, I should certainly try to give it more of a chance I can, even if it's not convenient to do at first. Because let's face it, it's not the cartooning that's the problem here. It's the fact that I need to have something to do that I'm not bad at. It's just, and that was the weirdest relationship I even had with claymation, particularly. Like with stop motion animation, when I was good at that, but I wasn't passionate for it, that drove me crazy. I was like, how am I gonna keep doing this? But then again, the things I love to do that I suck at, the things like writing and inventing, philosophy, and some people don't even like my philosophy in particular. Some people just think I'm a bad philosopher in its own way. I'm not gonna say I'm never a bad philosopher, but that's just a little thing. So, I'm not necessarily to say that I should only be a cartoonist or only should be a creative, but if my writing is gonna be like this, then let's face facts here. If my communication is gonna suck like this for at least the time being, if not for a much longer time than I expected to, then why not be a creative person in the meantime? If it means I'll have deep talks that are a little bit more out of bounds than they need to be, if it means having claymations that don't always even make sense in their own way, then I'll try it. Because it's not that there's nothing left anymore, it's just that there's more to try out. And I think that's the kind of hope I can give everyone else who can or cannot understand what I'm saying. If it's not that I don't make any sense, it's that I should make sense out of what I have. And I know that didn't have to be as organized as it may look, but I hope I gave anyone else hope for that. But yeah, that should be it for this video. That was just going to be about writing and communication as either their own outlets and solutions and problems or whatever else. And that should be it. Yeah, I just wanted to bring that out here as a creative video essay, sort of, kind of a little bit here. And the thumbnail is going to have this little like chromoglyph-esque backwards drawing, retro-esque drawing. And it looks kind of cool as a thumbnail, but I'm not trying to get clicks. I just want to make a cool thumbnail. So that's what the thumbnail is. If I can upload it to YouTube, then I'll go with it. So take care, everyone, and I will see you in another video. Maybe not as quickly as expected because I'm supposed to be still on a hiatus, but it is what it is. I think I'm gonna just upload every few days, every few weeks, and just go from there. And if I don't come back from the hiatus more efficiently, then I'll just do what I want at that point. So yeah. Take care, everyone. And yes, this room is really messy. I'm going to have to really do something about this someday. Take care, guys.